everybody, welcome back to another Sunday with Steve and another show with a couple fun things that we're going to try today. I try to move it around, I try to jump around and do different ethnic stuff and just so it's not the same old boring stuff all the time, and stuff that I've never made before that I like to try, and new ideas on it, new takes on it. So that's what we're going to do today. Two dishes today. Our dinner today is Swedish meatballs. Haven't made Swedish meatballs. And supposedly this recipe is even better than the furniture place. You know, that place you got to assemble your own furniture? They have them there. Supposedly this is even better. This is a Swedish grandmother's recipe. Best Swedish meatballs you'll ever have. That's what they say. That's what we're going to find out. So we're doing that today. It's pretty low carb. I mean, there's a little breadcrumb in the meatballs themselves. Not a lot. And then there's a little flour in the roux that you make to make your, creamy sauce that you put your Swedish meatballs in. I'm going to use a whole wheat flour for that, so we'll try to keep it a little healthier, but there's not a lot. So to me, it's low carb because there's really not a lot of carbs in it. There's no sugar in it, obviously. Our dessert today, which we're going to do first, because we always do our dessert first, because most of the time it has to sit in the refrigerator and come together. We're going to do a sugar-free key lime pie, low carb too. This one's going to be really good. I love key lime pie. It's summertime now. You really want to get those, summer desserts going. So that's what we're going to try to do with this one today. We took a bunch of ideas, put our own together as usual, and we're going to see how this thing works out. I'm actually making a key lime tart because I'm using my tart pan, the one that has the removable bottom, rather than doing a pie itself. So it'll be a little thinner, but the flavor should all still be there, okay? So let's start with that key lime pie. Sugar-free, low-carb key lime pie. First thing we got to do, I have a packet of unflavored gelatin in my measuring cup here, just one packet. We're going to add to that a cup of boiling water. So I'm just going to measure that out right to a cup of boiling water, okay? And we're just going to mix that till all that gelatin dissolves, okay? Just kind of put that in there. We're going to let that cool off, okay? So next thing is we got to do our pie crust, because the pie crust is the only thing that's got to bake on this. We got to do a pre-bake on that, and then the rest of these ingredients, when we put it together, doesn't get baked, which is nice too. It just goes in the refrigerator, and the gelatin is going to become that thickener that holds your whole pie together, okay? So I have here 1 1/4 cup of almond flour. That's our new flour of choice with desserts and stuff because it's extremely low carb. I have 1 1/2 teaspoon of Swerve, which is that artificial sweetener we've been using as well that has no bitter aftertaste, which we love that, okay? So that's great. And I have 3 tablespoons of melted butter, okay, that I'm just going to add to this. And now, we just mix this all together. I got my spatula right here. We're just going to mix this all together until we have that clumpy mixture, like when you're making, a graham cracker crust, that kind of thing. You put the butter in, and then it all just kind of becomes crumbly, and then you press it into the bottom of your pan. I'm hoping this is going to be enough of a crust, but it should be enough to cover the whole bottom of this. And we'll press it into place. Okay, so once you have that all pressed into the bottom of your pan here, you're going to bake this for about 8 to 10 minutes in a 350 oven. Just keep your eye on it because it's really thin. I mean, we didn't even have enough to go up the sides or anything, but that's going to be okay. We're going to have just this thin almond crust on the bottom of this, and the rest of the pie will just go on top. I'm sure once it hardens up in the refrigerator and the gelatin and everything makes your whole mixture congeal, I'm sure it'll be able to still come out of this pan. I did spray it with a little non-stick spray, so hopefully later on we don't have a problem lifting this thing right out of here. It should be okay though. Alrighty, so let me get that in the oven, and in the meantime we'll get ready to start our filling for this thing. Okay, so get out your mixer, whip attachment, the beater attachment, not the regular beater attachment, but the whip attachment. To my bowl, I'm going to add 1 block of softened cream cheese. Now, I've been telling you, with cheesecakes and stuff, if you really want to soften up your cream cheese, take that foil-wrapped block when you take it out of the box and stick it in a bowl of like hot water for like 10 minutes, and it makes it really soft and creamy because that way it really helps with the creaming process of mixing everything together. Okay? So to that block of cream cheese, I'm going to add a tablespoon of Swerve sweetener. Okay? I have a half a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm just going to whisk those together first. Okay, now to my whipped cream cheese there, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of heavy cream. Make sure it don't splash all over you. Okay. We're also going to add the zest of 1 lime and the juice of 2 limes in here. Okay, that's going to give us our lime flavor. Okay, you can go a little heavier with the zest if you want. It's up to you. And then finally to this, we're just going to add that cup of unflavored gelatin that we dissolved in the hot water. Okay. Okay, our pie crust is out of the oven, or our tart crust, and we're just going to let that cool down for a few minutes, okay? I have my stuff here now. As I was doing this, I was tasting. After I mixed everything, I tasted it, and it wasn't limey enough and it wasn't sweet enough. So I added the juice of another lime, so that's the juice of 3 limes and the zest of 1 lime, and I added 2 more tablespoons of the Swerve sweetener, just to see if I could sweeten it up. Much better, much better. Still could use even more lime. Like you could, oh, there. That was my timer for the crust, which we took out already. But I think once it firms up and everything, I think it's going to be fine. I don't want it to be overly sweet. I just want that kind of subtleness, and because of the cream cheese and everything, it almost has, I have a feeling it's going to almost have like this cream cheese kind of texture to it, which is going to be kind of cool too, because who doesn't love cheesecake? So once this has cooled down a little bit, all I'm going to do is pour this into my pan here, and then we'll just cover it with some plastic into the fridge for a couple hours or overnight, depending on when you're doing this. We're going to have it for dessert later on tonight. That's why we're doing it nice and early. And we'll be back in a little bit to do our Swedish meatballs. Alrighty, we're going to serve that over that Dreamfields pasta that I've been using. Unfortunately, they don't have an egg noodle, so we're going to do it over linguine, but it's that low net carb pasta, so it doesn't cause blood sugar spikes, or at least not for me. Some people say it doesn't work for them, but it's been working for me. So every now and then, it's nice to have that treat, okay? So we'll be back with our Swedish meatballs. Okay, so let's get started on our dinner for tonight, since our pie is chilling nicely in the refrigerator. We're going to make our Swedish meatballs, okay? So here's what you start with. Now, it's not completely no carb. There is some panko breadcrumbs in this, 2/3 of a cup, which isn't a lot considering how many meatballs it's going to make, okay? So on the grand scale, it's not so bad. I have a cup of milk, and I have about 5 tablespoons of heavy cream, okay? That's optional. You don't have to add that, but supposedly it makes a much moister meatloaf, okay? So I'm just going to leave that off to the side and let that sit for about 10 minutes or so, okay? In the meantime, I'll get my other stuff ready here. Okay, in another bowl, I have 2 eggs, okay? I'm just going to beat up a little bit here. Okay, just whisk those together. To that, I'm going to add 2 really finely chopped up, minced up garlic cloves, okay? I have a half a teaspoon of black pepper, a half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a half a teaspoon of ground allspice. Okay, I'm just going to whisk those together in here with my eggs. Okay, and then I'm going to add our milk and breadcrumbs that have been sitting there to this as well. Okay, got a big mound of dishes starting up over there. Okay, and I'm just going to whisk that together and let that just sit for a couple minutes while I get the rest of my stuff ready. Okay, now in my big bowl here, I have 2 pounds of ground beef and 1 pound of ground pork. Okay, so that's 3 pounds of meat there. I doubled this recipe because I figure if you're going to go through all the trouble to make this, make more than enough, and then you got leftovers, you can freeze it, I'm sure, and everything else. Okay, so I have my ground meats in here. To this, I'm going to add, I have 1 chopped up onion, nice fine chop on our onion here, a good chop, you know. You don't want it too chunky because you want the onion to be all throughout the meat mixture. And I have 4 tablespoons of chopped fresh parsley, okay? So we'll add that to this bowl here. And then we're going to pour in our breadcrumb milk mixture to this. And we're going to start mixing this up until it's really well incorporated. I might start with a spoon. I'll just get right in there with my hands. My hands are clean. Just going to start mixing this till it's all mixed really well, okay? Alright, so there's our mixture. Cookie scoop. I'm going to use this size so I can make smaller meatballs rather than my ice cream scoop, which would give me bigger ones. Okay? So just basically to make them all uniform, try to use a scoop if you can. I have a couple tablespoons of olive oil and a couple tablespoons of butter mixed together in here and melted and hot and ready. And we're just going to start frying up our meatballs. You're going to have to do them in batches, obviously, because this is not all going to fit in that pan. So do them in batches. Make sure you roll them around. You brown them on all sides. Okay, this takes a little bit of time. So worth it, though. You got to have them. Now, maybe you could just put these all on a cookie sheet and throw them in the oven. That might work too. I'm just following, since it's the first time I'm doing this, I'm just following what they say to do. Okay, so I'm going to fry up this whole bowl in batches, and I'll be back when we're ready to put our sauce together, because Swedish meatballs got to have that creamy sauce that goes with it. I mean, that's what kind of sells it. All right, back in a few. So they're all done frying, thank God. Okay, I have 2/3 cups of butter. I'm going to add to this pan, same pan with the drippings from the meatballs. Now I know why everyone goes out for Swedish meatballs. They go to the furniture place and they get them there and they eat them there because they're such pain in the butt to make. Let me just tell you, these things stick like crazy when you go to turn them and roll them and whatever in the bottom of your pan. Oh, what a nightmare. Okay, so now I know why everybody goes somewhere else to get them. Okay, so I'm melting down that butter. To that I'm going to add a cup of whole wheat flour I'm going to use instead of regular flour. We're going to make our roux here and then turn this mess. Oh, I get such a kick out of myself sometimes. Turn this into our sauce that we're going to put. I put all of my meatballs into this Dutch oven here because I'm going to make the sauce, then I'm going to pour it over this, and I'm going to let this simmer for about 15-20 minutes or so, just to make sure all the meatballs are cooked all the way through and everything else, which they should be anyway because we fried them pretty good, but just want to always safe than sorry. Okay, so I'm going to just add my whole wheat flour. I don't think that should make much of a difference as opposed to regular flour. We'll see. Okay, so I'm just going to mix that with my butter here and make my roux. And then to this, we're going to add, once you have that all incorporated, let me use my whisk would probably be better. Okay, whisk that all together. To that, I'm going to add 2 cups of beef stock. Okay. 2 cups of vegetable stock. Don't ask me why, a combination of the two. I don't know. I have 4 teaspoons of soy sauce. I have, I think, 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. Mustard. Gotta have some mustard. I'm guessing that's what gives it that unique kind of flavor, you know? Whisk that all together there. And the last thing we got to add to this, I know you're thinking the same thing. Wait a minute, it's supposed to be a cream sauce. That's right. So we're going to add 2 cups of heavy cream to this, and we're going to let this simmer and thicken up until we got a nice creamy sauce. Okay, so let me get my heavy cream, and I'll be back in a minute when this is bubbling and thick. Okay, so there's my big pot of Swedish meatballs with the sauce. I let them simmer for about 20 minutes or so, just because I wanted to make sure that the meatballs were all the way cooked through, which I'm sure by now they have to be. Okay, and look at that. And I have some of that low-carb pasta, Dreamfields. All they have is linguine, which is the closest to a wide noodle. I was hoping for like an egg noodle would be great with this, but that's okay. So let me just get a couple meatballs here. And I'm going to dive right into a taste test. I don't know how I'm going to eat this as hot as it is. Let's cut a meatball. Yes, cooked through. That's what we like to see. Let's try the meatball first with this sauce. Got to jump right in because I'm starving and we still got dessert to do. We still got movies to talk about. And it's Memorial Day weekend and I'm trying to do some stuff for myself too. Besides eat. Interesting. It's got an interesting flavor. I mean, I guess it's Swedish. I don't know, I haven't had Swedish meatballs in so long. They're really tasty. Really well done. Okay, the only thing that I learned from this too, like I was saying, it was such a process to fry all of these. Next time, I'm just going to roll them all, put them on a cookie sheet with some parchment paper, and bake them. And let them all just cook through that way. And I'll do the sauce in a separate pan. What I'll do is, I'll save the dripping. That's the reason why you do this in a frying pan and fry your meatballs first, is because you want to save those drippings from the meatballs when you're frying them to add so much flavor to your sauce. But I'll just save the drippings and I'll pour them into a pan and I'll just start from there, because I think that would make it a lot easier. Alrighty, so I'm going to go eat my dinner and then I'll be back. We got to check on our key lime pie and see if that gelatin trick worked to congeal the whole thing and make it a pie that we can slice. And we'll have a taste of that and talk movies and see you in a bit. Okay, we're back for our taste test of our key lime tart. I should have left it there. It's going to be hard to lift, but came out really nice in the tart pan. Came out pretty easy. You just got to be careful when you're taking it out if you're using a tart pan. Alright. Let me just cut a piece of this. Oh, I should probably use a sharper knife. Let me see. Just a little knife here, just to make sure we cut through the crust there. Okay. This is one of our sugar-free creations, low carb with the almond flour. But look at that, beautiful little tart. We love that. I'm just going to get it off of here. I mean, it did its job, congealing with the gelatin. Sorry, I'm turning my back to you. Oh, needs a little spray cream. Need some of that on there. There you go. There. Now let's see what the taste. I just got a little taste of it, but let's see what we really got here. Really nice. I'm surprised. Because when I tasted it that first time making the batter, or the filling, it didn't taste that sweet. This is definitely a little bit sweeter. Still not overly sweet. It probably could be a little bit sweeter. But that's okay. It satisfies that craving for dessert. And it's sugar-free. So we love that. A lot of these recipes that I find for the sugar-free stuff, I have to adapt because a lot of them want like weird ingredients, like weird whey protein and some kind of xanthan gum and all. I'm not going out and buying all this stuff. Nobody's got this stuff in their house and nobody's going to run out and buy this stuff. So I try to adapt it with the stuff that you have. And this is a pretty good adaptation of a key lime pie. It's not the real deal key lime pie by no means. But if you got to watch your sugar and your carbs, this is definitely worth trying. Okay, I'm blabbering as usual. Our movies we watched. We got to talk movies. Our movies we watched this week, we watched Tootsie. Cracked me up ever. I still laugh to this day, and I've seen this movie, I can't, countless times. Dustin Hoffman, Jessica Lange, Gina Davis, Dabney Coleman. I mean, there's just, the list goes on and on and on. Terry Garr. I mean, it's just Bill Murray. It's just funny, funny, funny. Classic movie. Watching Dustin Hoffman transform into Dorothy Michaels is just priceless. But anyway, I told you, it's in the top, probably in the top 5 of comedies of all time for me. And it might even be in my top 10 of movies of all time because it's just so well done. It's a Sidney Pollack film, and it's just, it's priceless. Anyway, our second movie was Vertigo. I had a feeling I've seen this one before, and I have. And I wasn't crazy about it the first time, and I'm still not kind of crazy about it. I love Alfred Hitchcock movies, but this is probably my least favorite of all of them. Just something about it. I don't know. It was a little weird. It was a little too many twists and turns. I don't know. It was just a little weird. If you want to see a really good Alfred Hitchcock movie, it may even be, I didn't look ahead to see if it was on the list. It should be on the list if it's not. Rear Window is my absolute favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie. And then The Birds, and then, you know, I can name a bunch of other ones after that. But definitely Rear Window out of all the Alfred Hitchcocks. That one you gotta see. I hope it's on the list coming up because I'd like to see that one again. Alright, let's see what we gotta watch for this week. Okay, number 60 counting down. 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Started the whole Indiana Jones craze. I saw this one in the theater when I was a kid a bunch of times. I went back a few times to see this because it's Steven Spielberg. I mean, it's Harrison Ford. It's just amazing, amazing, amazing. You know, the whip and the hat and the whole bit. I mean, and then they made how many before? 3 other movies, so 4 movies altogether for Indiana Jones. Just tells you how great the movie was. But we'll talk more about it next week. So that's the first one we got to watch this week. We'll watch it again because it's very well done. And our second movie this week, number 59, 1955's Rebel Without a Cause. Yep, it's a James Dean movie, and I actually did this play in high school. I was Buzz Gunderson, the one that goes over the cliff. I've seen this one a bunch of times too. But again, we'll watch him again because we want to make sure we loved him or we hated him or whatever. Sometimes you think you remember a movie and you go, oh, I really like that movie, and then you watch it again and you go, oh my god, what was I thinking? This movie sucks. But anyway, that's it for this week. It's Memorial Day weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all the veterans. I said it last year, I'll say it again this year. All of our military, thank you so much for all that you do every day to keep all of us safe and cooking and eating. And once again, please send in requests in the comments section. Share and like and friend me and all this stuff too. But put comments of stuff that you'd like to see me do, because sometimes I can't think of what to do that I haven't done or that's new or that's different or something. I'm willing to try. If you ask for it, I'll try to do it. Alrighty? We'll see you next week.